Hey there, and welcome back to Red Spark's crypto blog for all your crypto and Cardano news. I haven't done a video in a while, or at least a proper video in quite a while, so I thought I would sit down and do one today. I had a bit of time, but typically in the last couple of months I've been doing more tweeting on Twitter, so follow me along on there if you haven't already, or writing some articles on my blog post. Typically the tweets obviously are quicker to do, followed by the blog post, followed by putting a video together. So I have a lot of admiration for those crypto YouTubers that do it on a daily basis. In today's video, I'm gonna just take stock of where we are in the crypto journey, where things are with Bitcoin, where things are with Ethereum, where things are with Cardano, and where things are with this whole DeFi movement and trying to get mass adoption. It's just various different thoughts that have been percolating in my mind over the last couple of months that I just wanted to get out there. There's plenty more I could have said, but I decided to not make this longer than it already had become. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you do, remember to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and follow me along on Twitter. Let's start off with talking about the internal schism within the Bitcoin community around Bitcoin maximalism. This originally stems from a June controversy in which a prominent Bitcoiner / VC investor was found to be investing in companies that operated in cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin. Nick went on the offensive and wrote this blog post denouncing Bitcoin maximalism and wrote, "I don't think other blockchains are useless. Just look at the data. There's over $100 billion of stablecoins on other blockchains. They are objectively useful. They are used in real-world transactions more than Bitcoin is. To deny this is to deny reality. The fact that people pay fees to use these other blockchains, vastly exceeding by an order of magnitude, in the case of Ethereum, the fees paid to use Bitcoin, indicates that there's a material market-based demand for these alternative block spaces. Bitcoin maximalists that deny this are denying the markets an evidence-based approach that they claim to venerate." So, as you can imagine, that erupted a whole big debate within the Bitcoin community about whether Bitcoin maximalism is right. That led to one of their lead developers, Matt Corallo, to tweet, "Bitcoin maxis are a dying breed. While there was a time where everything except Bitcoin was basically a scam, this hasn't been true for a long time, and the smart money has moved on to figuring out which projects are going somewhere and which are straight pump and dumps." And to which Nick Carter also replied, "Brave and important thread from Matt. This is an important cultural moment. Okay, Bitcoin doesn't need me, but it does need Matt Corallo, Bitcoin's longest tenured and most prolific core dev." And then that led to a Mr. Samson Mao coming out with this tweet saying that, hey, reminder, Matt Corallo introduced an inflation bug into Bitcoin, so he's not such a great developer after all. And then that led to others defending him. That's a very low blow. Everyone makes mistakes. A bug is just as much the fault of others for not catching it in review and so on. And then this other person, who I presume must also be a developer, got so fed up that he said, "I think it's soon time for me to move on to other things." And then that caused further arguments back and forth, which is still going on to this day. So it's a bit of a mess in Bitcoin land. I listened in to one of their Twitter streams to find out what exactly the different points of views were. And it seemed to me, in what I was listening to, that there was one camp which believed that Bitcoin is really a store of value and it doesn't really need to do anything else. The store of value is the ultimate utility. Every other transaction, such as, using cryptocurrencies to make purchases, that's just peripheral to the underlying value that Bitcoin has. So other coins can do whatever they like. Bitcoin is not going to promote them. It's not going to interact with them. It's not going to go into that space. It's just going to continue doing what it does, which is store value long term, and it doesn't need any changes beyond that. The other points of view were that no, Bitcoin is supposed to be used as an actual currency and transacted, not just held as an alternative to gold, and therefore we do need to cut down on other coins, and we do need to make sure that Bitcoin can evolve and compete with these other coins. And then actually on that branch of thinking, the branch of thinking that Bitcoin should be used as a transaction payment, in addition to some that were thinking that you should make sure that Bitcoin evolves, the other sub-branch there was you should make sure that other coins like Ethereum can operate with Bitcoin as its underlying base. So you want to develop the smart contract platform like DEXs and things on Bitcoin, and then you'll allow other coins to operate on top of Bitcoin. So there's all this bit of a mess, really. This all these different points of views, and I think they didn't quite realize they all had these fundamental different positions to start with, which was causing more arguments down the line as they kept sort of going back and forth. So yeah, things in Bitcoin land are a bit of a mess, as they see how there's a lot of momentum now from banks and institutions into not just investing in Bitcoin, but investing in things like Ethereum, investing in altcoins. So it's like that classic meme of that boyfriend with his girlfriend. He turns away to look at another girl walking by. It's a little bit like that, where the girlfriend is Bitcoin and the boy is turning to, the boy being the investors and the institutions. They're now getting their eye on this fancier looking girl walking by, known as altcoins. And that's the sort of anxiety and insecurity that's happening in the Bitcoin world. Moving on from Bitcoin to Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin's speech at the recent ETHCC conference has given rise to some anxiety within the Ethereum community. In this speech, he talks about the merge, the surge, the verge, and the plurge, and whatever urges there are in Ethereum, which is essentially the long roadmap that Ethereum is going through. And right now, they're at the merge phase, which is, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, they are transitioning to proof of stake. The Ethereum protocol today is undergoing a long and complicated transition towards becoming a much more robust and powerful system, and the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is that Bitcoiners consider Bitcoin to be 80% complete, but Ethereans consider Ethereum to be 40% complete. So that is a view he restated at this conference. Ethereum right now, on its roadmap plan that we just saw a second ago, is only 40% complete. After the merge, he reckoned it would be about 55% complete. So there's still a long way to go on the roadmap. And I don't think a lot of Ethereum people realize this. They don't realize the complexity of the roadmap and how much further is still to go. The other thing that's been worrying Ethereans is a very quick comment he made at around this section of the video towards the end, that if sharding can't be done in a decentralized fashion, it would have to be done in a centralized fashion. He didn't go into any further details, and I've played back the entire video, and there's not much more on it than that. But he has mentioned something like that before. The general idea, well, at least when it comes to validation, I'm not sure if sharding is, or what he's referring to here, is a different concept. But he's certainly mentioned before that when it comes to validation and block production, the validation can be done by a decentralized network of nodes, but the actual block production, the recording and generating of the ledger, could be done in a centralized fashion. And that to him is an okay trade-off. That way the actual important bit is still being done in a decentralized fashion. So I'm not, now that he's mentioning it for sharding, I don't know if that's an extension of that idea or not, but either way, I'm guessing a lot of Ethereans did not realize that, Vitalik is increasingly accepting a greater and greater amount of centralization of Ethereum going forward. Again, I just find a lot of people just don't seem to pay attention to the more technical discussions in the space, and they just go by newspaper and Twitter sort of headlines. So again, that's probably giving some people food for thought, but let's face it, most people just care about their portfolio going up. So if centralization is what what it takes for Ethereum to scale and have mass adoption, they will embrace it wholeheartedly. They do not care about decentralization. In fact, to be honest, they don't care about Ethereum either. Most people, in fact, I'd say, I mean, it's true of any blockchain, let's be honest, but especially in Ethereum, I feel there's a large percentage of people that don't really care about Ethereum. They just want to get rich. They don't care if it gets taken over by Elon Musk and it becomes an offshoot of Tesla. If it means that their portfolio will go up, their banks will go up, they will do that. They will do that. I would like to think in the Cardano community, we would rather be poor. We would rather lose our investment than see it turn into a centralized blockchain. But who knows? I'm not sure where others stand on that. But with Ethereum, they're making good progress on the merge, so that's round of applause on that. Hopefully, the merge will happen in September, I think, by the looks of it. And then in this video, Vitalik also talks about how down the line they are looking at how they can improve the TPS of Ethereum from 15 to 20 at the moment to around 100,000. So that'll be quite a significant improvement if they can get that done. Although, again, there's no clear timeline on when that might happen or even how they will achieve it. They're still looking into it. And for comparison's sake, Solana is around, I think, 70 to 80,000, although a lot of those transactions are sort of inner working, not real transactions, just systems, the Solana system doing some sort of pinging or something. So take that with a pinch of salt. Cardano right now, actually I don't even know what it is right now. It's been making so many little improvements here and there. I'm losing track. It was as low as, I think, 3 TPS, I think. But I think after Vassal, it should be probably on par with Algorand was my best guess. But I'd have to go back over my notes. And Algorand is around, I think, 30 to 40 TPS, if I recall. And then, and by the way, I did some analysis on Cardano's transactions, and this idea that one transaction can hold many different transactions in Cardano, which is true, it definitely can. That's the UTXO model. And I published a tweet where I did some analysis and I figured out what the true transactions per second, what the true transactions are, or volume of transactions are on Cardano. So if you look at the base number, you're going to see about 70k transactions. And I thought I'd calculated the real transactions, so each transaction having multiple transactions, being a lot higher than 70k. I think I calculated something as high as 200k. However, possibly even higher actually. However, I went back and I checked my my coding and I realized I made a mistake. Sorry about that, guys. The reality wasn't as amazing, I'm afraid. I can't remember the exact number. I keep meaning to do a thorough blog post on it to let others dissect it and QA my code. But if the base amount being done on chain right now is 70k, then taking into account this multiple transactions per transaction argument, I think it only got us to about 80 or 90k, if I recall. So it wasn't a major difference. It was still, the bulk of the 70k transactions are essentially a single transaction. And that's daily transaction volume I'm talking about, not to be confused with transactions per second. So two different concepts. And as I said, on Ethereum, longer term aim is to get to 100,000 transactions per second. Okay, we'll come back to Cardano later. Let's move on to more broader thoughts about the crypto space. Okay, so I just typed DeFi into Google News and did a search, and straight away we see a few interesting results. Down here you have the Nomad hack. It's a shame it mentions Cardano in the title there when it impacted other chains as well. But obviously the Nomad hack was a big hack from a few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago now. And that showed the dangers of bridges. Down here we see another amount vanishing from DeFi project Blur Finance. What's the top headline here? DeFi token powering Ethereum. Oh, Lido. Lido is overcoming a lot of Ethereum shortcomings to allow liquid staking, something that Cardano has natively. And then there's more attackers down here. Attacker siphons off 57 or 570,000 from Curve Finance. That is something that occurred recently. My point of all of this is that anybody coming into the crypto space and looking at DeFi right now is going to come across a whole bunch of scams. They're going to see headlines. These headlines are not unique. Every month there's usually a hack, and nothing ever seems to get done. And I said a lot of it is to do with the EVM and the programming of the EVM and how hard it is to ensure there's no bugs given the global state. I'm not saying Cardano's going to be, I do think Cardano's going to be a lot better, but I can't guarantee there won't be any hacks on Cardano. But the way it's designed, it just makes it harder for things to go wrong than EVM and their global state. So DeFi was all the rage last year, and people were chasing these high yields that gave back 300% of this made-up token, things like that. All of that, I think, has now run its course. It's still going on, but I think people have wised up to it. And now suddenly DeFi is in a self-reflecting phase. And the question is, what can DeFi offer that would entice the mass market to want to get in on crypto? And that hasn't been answered by anybody yet. We talk about liquidity pools. I had a little play with on MintSwap with providing liquidity to the liquid token the other day. I only did for about a month. I was just doing a little experiment, but I deposited my ADA and my liquid tokens and then took them out a month later. And the long and short of it was I was down on Cardano, up a little bit on liquid. But if I took the liquid's current price into account, overall I was down by a couple of £100. So it didn't really make it worth my while to do liquidity provision. Hopefully some of the dApps coming out on Cardano, like Genius Yield and Maladex, hopefully they fix that problem. They fix the impermanent loss problem, and they make it easier for people like me to come in and provide liquidity. But as it is right now, I do not want to go near the DeFi space. I don't want to go near all these 5,000% yields on yield farming on some shitty token that I never really wanted anyway, and things like that. And then on top of that, you've got all these hacks and scams and the bridges losing money. And I said it before, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that has some inside connection to it. Because think about it. It must be so easy. If I wanted to make a lot of money, just come up with some project, fork an existing project, make it look like I'm being legit, but just have a bug in there that only I know about. And then later on, when someone, in quotes, discovers that bug and steals a lot of money, I can plead my innocence and say, oh, I didn't know. By golly, how did somebody get in? Who would have thought that you could, we were storing the seed phrase in plain text or whatever the problem was with Nomad. But I'm not saying Nomad was insiders. I'm just saying that there must be so many scams out there where there's a mysterious hack, no one knows who it is, but I bet it was an inside job. Anyway, I'm going off tangent there. Main point is DeFi and crypto is not in a good state. Crypto needs to do a lot more. People haven't got a great answer for it either. Nobody seems to have an answer for, okay, well, what do we do? What do we do to stop all these hacks taking place and all these scams happening? Nobody has a good answer. Nobody wants to admit that it's not ready for mainstream adoption, because everybody just wants to pump their bags and get rich, and that really annoys me. So I'm hoping somebody, in quotes Cardano, comes along and lays out a vision for DeFi 2, or whatever we want to call it, and helps articulate why would the masses want to use this than just sticking to traditional finance? Because if you can't answer that, if you don't have a compelling alternative, and you wouldn't be comfortable with your parents or your neighbor or somebody investing in these protocols, if you worry that they might get hacked or lose their money, then you know what? Crypto is not ready for mainstream adoption. So that's a bit of a rant at the crypto space. Let's move on to Cardano. So with Cardano, the big headline is that we're all waiting to find out when the Vassal hard fork will take place. We thought it would take place in June, but then that got shifted. We then thought it would take place in July. That got shifted. And we haven't been given a new date yet. But we're all on the edge of our seats with bated breath, hoping it will happen soon. And in particular, we want it to happen before the Ethereum merge, which is probably going to happen, hopefully for them, sometime in September. But it has been silent. I'm hoping what that means is they don't want to announce a date until they're 99.9% sure. I did post that on Twitter today, and I did get some replies saying, actually, all the different stake pool operators would need to upgrade their nodes to the latest version before the merge can happen. And so far, no one's been notified. But so there will be some sort of heads up before the actual hard fork happens, so people can get ready. But I'm just hoping that the silence that we have right now is just simply down to common sense. Having learned from June and July, let's just wait till we're very, very sure we've ironed out all the kinks, and then we'll announce the date. And hopefully with a mid-month update coming up. I think there's a mid-month update. Actually, I'm not sure. I know last month there was no more Cardano 360 at the end of August. I don't know if that means there's no mid-month update either. But hopefully we will find out soon. And for me personally, it's not so much I want a date. I just want to know how's it going. But I guess I have to appreciate the moment you give a status update, it gets blown out of proportion by fudsters and media and things like that. So I'm not too offended by the silence, let's just say that. So yeah, Vassal will happen sooner or later, and it'll be great. It'll be amazing. It'll allow much higher TPS, and it'll allow more dApps to launch. A lot of dApps have been holding back. I really, really hope we have a couple of good flagship dApps launching and demonstrating the power of Cardano and how we do dApps on Cardano. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's come back to that thought in just a second. Data availability. This tweet by Suraj. This is a good tweet if you haven't read it already. It's more about Ethereum. It's talking about, data availability as a concept applies to all blockchains. And it basically means how can a validator confirm that the on-chain data is correct. And typically the way you would do that is if a node has access to the full ledger. If you have access to the full ledger, you can quickly go through and validate everything is correct. But like clients that don't have the full node, that don't have the full amount of data, they currently can't actually validate for sure that the ledger that they have is correct. They rely on these primary validators to do that. So that's what Suraj talks about in this post. And Ethereum are investigating ways of dealing with that. So they've got dank sharding, which does that. In the Cardano world, from my understanding, from what Suraj was saying, we don't have a solution. We do not have a solution for this. Which I thought we did. I thought that's what the light wallet that's coming out would allow you to do, but maybe I'm misunderstanding that. I thought it allowed the ability to fully validate the chain whilst also being a light client. But there's a lot of questions around what is the data availability strategy on Cardano, and hopefully there'll be a blog post or a Charles YouTube video or something that helps clarify the matters, because that's there's a lot of debate going on right now within the Cardano community, and it does look like people are just operating in the dark a bit here, and they need a bit of clarification, which I guess then moves on nicely to a comment that I don't know if it was Ada Well or somebody else made yesterday, the need to move away from depending on IOG to having a much more decentralized ownership and development of Cardano. We've definitely started going down that route with Milkomeda, and I think Orbis are a nice addition to the scene, but we definitely need more plays like that. And I think M Labs look like they're stepping up and playing more of a role as well. MLab, in my mind, are like the kingmakers. they are the ones that have the most Haskell Plutus developers and expertise. And so if you want to become a good, successful project, quite likely you're going to have to hire MLab to build it for you. So they do have a lot of weight in the ecosystem, but it looks like they're stepping up and playing a more active role on within the Cardano ecosystem as well. So that's a good thing. But we need more actors like this. We need to make Plutus easier so that anybody can learn it, and then over time we'll develop more and more experts. So those are some of the things, some of the challenges that Cardano needs to address on top of the whole scalability and endorsers, which, by the way, I know there was meant to be another hard fork end of this year. I wouldn't hold your breath for that. I think from what clues have been dropped in past videos, it sounds like input endorsers are going to be coming over a series of upgrades, one of which might be the end of this year. But in general, given how we're a bit delayed with Vassal now, I wouldn't be surprised if the hard fork that was due later this year doesn't happen now until the beginning of next year. Just a guess. I might be wrong on that, but I like to set my expectations low so I don't get too disappointed. Okay, but moving on to more positive aspects. So in this video, I covered Bitcoin and the infighting they're having about whether or not to further develop Bitcoin to have additional layers and deal in the whole currency space and compete with Ethereum in the whole DeFi space. Those sort of things. Is that where Bitcoin should be heading to, or should it just stay away from that and just focus really on just being this bucket of value, this store of value, and not much else? So they're having an identity crisis. I think part of that is this insecurity as they start to see these, who they thought were their best buddies, the big banks and the institutions, who they thought they were pally pals with. They're now eyeing up Ethereum, and they're like, "Ooh, shit! Wait, how about us?" So I think there's a bit of insecurity there, and as investors look to other investments, and they're asking themselves, what is the real? It's going back to this question. What is the real use case for crypto? Bitcoin has one answer, store of value, but investors are asking, okay, but what else? What else? And they're looking around. So that's where the anxiety for Bitcoin comes in. And Ethereum is supposedly this alternative. It is to Bitcoin. It is showing you what crypto can do. It is showing you the value that cryptocurrencies can provide through things like DeFi and DAOs and so on. Except it has kind of collapsed. With all the scams, hacks in play, I think investors are much more aware now on just how risky a lot of these DeFi projects are. Thank you, Terra Luna, for that. In some weird way, I'm actually thanking Terra Luna for blowing up the crypto space, because it's making people realize the amount of risk that's in there and why you do need to take things slowly and research things and do things with diligence. So I think there's a lot more appreciation for Cardano now since the whole Terra Luna collapse and all the associated sort of other collapses around it. So there's a lot more concern. Investors want something more than a store of value, but they've got a lot of concerns around what they see in the current DeFi space, all those hacks, scams, and all that. And Ethereum itself has a very complicated roadmap. Is it going to scale? How long will it take? All those sort of things. So this is where Cardano has a great opportunity. As I said earlier, Cardano has an opportunity to lay out its message and demonstrate why, articulate and demonstrate why it is a different to the DeFi on Ethereum. What is Cardano's vision for DeFi 2.0? That is something I would like to see articulated. I know Jarek from Maladex has a few ideas of what that would mean, but I'd like to see other players in the Cardano DEX or DeFi space actually coming out with opinions of how their applications are going to differ, rather than just being a clone of what you see on Ethereum. Because if we're going to play in the space. We're essentially just a clone of Ethereum, and the argument is whatever you can do on Ethereum, you can do for cheaper on Cardano. Well, unfortunately, Polygon, Avalanche, Optimism, there's a whole host of other chains or /L2s that occupy that space. And I don't think Cardano is going to get much traction from that being its main message. So instead, it has to be a distinct alternative to the Ethereum way of doing things. And I think we've got enough brains in the ecosystem to formulate that. I do think we have the technology, coming together to formulate that. Like, DIDs, decentralized IDs, I think are another thing that sets Cardano apart that we should be leveraging in our messaging. So that will be great to see, that sort of articulation of the vision for DeFi 2 on Cardano and how it differs. And I think it allows Cardano, given all these issues we see on these other chains, it really primes Cardano. Once they get past Vassal and get that out of the way, it really primes Cardano to do really well in the future. At least that's my hope. Obviously, you can never tell what's going to happen in the future, especially in the crypto space. But that's at least why I'm very... But that's at least why I feel a bit bullish about Cardano and why I continue to invest in this bear market. Okay, that is all the hopium you're going to get from me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that upvote thumbs up button and tell all your friends about it, or at least go on Twitter and tweet about it. Other than that, I hope you all have a great day.